Why do celebrities love MacKenzie Scott? What does Jeff Bezos' first wife, the one he left for Lauren Sánchez, really look like? And is Lauren Sánchez truly the better match? She's from San Francisco. Scott was raised in an affluent neighborhood in San Francisco. The New York Times reported that her father worked as a financial advisor, and her mother stayed home to raise Scott and her two brothers. When she was 17, her father's firm declared bankruptcy, and she took on extra work to graduate from Hotchkiss, her Connecticut boarding school, a year early. Scott later worked as a waitress to pay her way through Princeton University, where she studied creative writing under the late Toni Morrison. Scott is a novelist. Over the course of her career, Scott has published 2 books. Her debut novel, The Testing of Luther Albright, took her a decade to complete and was published in 2005. Her second book, Traps, was published in 2013. Scott revealed in the afterword of her first novel that she knew she wanted to be a writer when she was 6 years old. Prior to her death in 2019, Toni Morrison described Scott as an extraordinary writer, almost full-blown. She was married to Bezos for 26 years. After college, Scott moved to New York City to pursue her dream of writing a novel, but found it hard to write while waitressing. So when she was invited to interview for a job at a financial firm, she agreed, not knowing that her future husband would be the one conducting it. Bezos hired Scott, based largely on a recommendation from Morrison, per the New York Times, and they soon began a whirlwind romance. The couple dated for 3 months before getting engaged and were married in 1993. However, in 2019, they announced that they were divorcing after 26 years of marriage. Scott helped Bezos launch Amazon. Shortly after they married, Bezos told Scott he wanted to quit his job and start his own digital bookselling company. She encouraged him to go for it, and they moved to Seattle to pursue his dream. "I'm not a business person, but to me, what I am hearing when he tells that idea is the passion and the excitement," Scott said during a 2013 interview on Charlie Rose of Bezos' initial plan. "And to me, watching your spouse, somebody that you love, have an adventure, what is better than that? And being part of that." Bezos ended up founding Amazon in the garage of their Washington home in 1994. She has 4 kids with Bezos. Scott and Bezos welcomed 4 kids together during their marriage. The parents have kept many details about their children's lives private, including their names and the years they were born. However, Scott did tell Vogue in 2013 that she put her writing on hold after their 3rd child was born. She said, "I knew I couldn't be the kind of parent I wanted to be and continue writing. Those years were just too busy." When they announced their divorce in 2019, Bezos and Scott made it clear that co-parenting their kids was the top priority. The Amazon billionaire wrote on X, "Though the labels might be different, we remain a family, and we remain cherished friends." Scott pledged to donate half of her wealth before she dies. After the terms of her divorce from Bezos were made public, Scott announced in May 2019 that she had agreed to give away at least half of her wealth throughout her life, per Forbes. As part of her mission, Scott uses a no-strings-attached philosophy, which means she hands control over how the money she donates is spent to the nonprofit's discretion. Scott has given over $19 billion to over 2,000 nonprofit organizations. In a 2021 blog post, she wrote how she never loved the word philanthropy, as it's often associated with financially wealthy people who believe they knew best how to solve other people's problems. "How much or how little money changes hands doesn't make it philanthropy," Scott penned. "Intention and effort make it philanthropy." She remarried in 2021, 2 years after her divorce from Bezos was finalized. Scott married Jewett, a chemistry teacher at her children's school, when he later joined her on the Giving Pledge and promised to also donate half of his wealth over his lifetime. He described Scott as one of the most generous and kind people he knew. Scott and Jewett were married for just over a year before the philanthropist filed for divorce in September 2022. It was finalized 4 months later. And what about Lauren Sánchez? We've covered her story in more detail on our channel. Feel free to check it out by clicking the card in the top right corner. But now, let's get into the comparison and answer the question, is Lauren actually better than MacKenzie? Old wife versus new wife, brains or Botox? So why did he make the switch? MacKenzie, a writer and literary award winner. Lauren, a TV host and former reporter. MacKenzie, natural beauty. Lauren, fillers, lips, Botox. MacKenzie, modest, often dresses simply, avoids publicity. Lauren, glamorous, loves bold outfits, red carpets, and posing for cameras. MacKenzie, Princeton graduate, studied under Toni Morrison. Lauren, University of Southern California, major in journalism. MacKenzie, donated billions to charity after the divorce. Lauren, always in the spotlight. Super yachts, private parties, luxury brands. MacKenzie, quiet, intelligent, strategic, never sought public attention. Lauren, emotional, photogenic, a personality from the entertainment world. MacKenzie, met Bezos in the 90s as a colleague at D.E. Shaw. Lauren, their story started with scandal, an affair while both were still married. MacKenzie, mother of 4, keeps her life private. Lauren, has children from previous relationships, active on social media. MacKenzie, the introverted billionaire, stays away from cameras. Lauren, a socialite, always next to Bezos in the flash of paparazzi. MacKenzie, let him go and built her own path. Lauren, his partner in a new Hollywood lifestyle. Yachts, awards, podcasts, Met Gala. But who's truly the better match for Jeff Bezos? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you love stories that go beyond the headlines, hit that subscribe button and stay with us for more.